One thing I love about All Star, big company, and we see it all over baseball and softball, but it is a little small at heart, a family business. Tell us a little bit about the hit company.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely not large. We're probably maybe about 30 employees, here in the building in Massachusetts. And we have a bit of a unique story in terms of how we got into sporting goods. The original company goes back to 1860, and it was a belt and suspender company. So, in fact, we just moved out of our location, and that building was basically the original mill building that made things like this, which are basically a bunch of suspenders. You can see it says, the President suspenders. That was actually the brand name because apparently several presidents in a row wore suspenders, made by that company, which at the time was the C.A. Edgerton Company. Then it became Boston Belts, and then the George Frost Company. And apparently the story goes like, the mill building is humming along, making leather belts, suspenders, crazy things like women's corsets and men's garters to keep up socks, of all things, things that we don't use any longer, obviously. And back in 1960, our sales rep, who was in Chicago, was calling on Sears Roebuck. And I'm not sure how many listeners really remember Sears, but it was like the Target, the Walmart of the day.
Oh yeah.
They had a thick, Sears catalog that would, the mail order. And Sears is buying tons of belts, tons of suspenders. And our sales rep was asked if the George Frost Company, which was the parent company at the time, could the George Frost Company make a jock strap? And so my grandfather said, why not? I mean, it's basically belts and suspender, And so we started making jock straps for Sears, and that was the start of the All-Star division. And so as the All-Star division grew into other sporting goods, they had to build a second building next door. And largely at first, it was things like football pads, like hip, thigh, tail pads, volleyball, elbow pads and knee pads. And then it's really in the 70s that they started getting to baseball protective. And that's kind of where we found our home and our niche. And I guess you could say the rest is history. We just kind of keep focusing on the product and just trying to make the best protective, best fitting gear that a catcher can use.